Hi, welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be talking about 2025 planners and journal lineups. So I figured that I would do this in a few parts. I have a video that I posted on Patreon. I do weekly updates on there, and there's an hour-long video this week of me kind of like rambling and going through all of the things that I've thought about in order to pick my 2025 lineup and kind of decide where I wanted to go in terms of Hobonichi, Sterling Ink, Tankado. There's a lot of planners that are coming out right now. And I want to kind of preface this by saying that you don't need to pre-order. I just want to mention that one of the things that has been bothering me a little bit about this whole situation with the pre-ordering system is the sensation of FOMO that comes up when you talk about like this new planner season and how a lot of people are feeling the pressure to order simply because of FOMO, simply because of the pressure of running out of scarcity, and it's something that rubs me the wrong way a little bit. It can't really be avoided. It's just part of the whole situation. But I just wanted to give a quick disclaimer that you don't need to pre-order at this point in time. It is very early. There are still 4 months left in the year. And the matter of fact is that it's very possible that at the time, if you order now in 4 months, you'll have decided that what you ordered isn't for you. So that is something to consider, is what I'm trying to say when pre-ordering. So just that's one thing that has been on my mind and I've been thinking about when it comes to what I want to order and just making sure that it's not just a in the moment decision based off of, oh, this is pretty and shiny. Although I will admit that two of the things that I'm going to be ordering are just because I really like how they look. So on the opposite side of that, like let's use some nuance here. I am nobody to tell you what to buy or not buy. If you want to buy things because you like them because they are nice and shiny, then please by all means buy them. Like the whole subject of planner consumption, and I've talked about this with some friends, and not just planner consumption, but overconsumption in general. Like I get to say for myself if I have overconsumed or not. I have no business telling other people that they are going through overconsumption and like how dare they and all this stuff. Whatever. It is a hobby and you get to buy whatever you want to buy, and if that brings you some sort of guilt, then that's something that is completely, in your bubble. I'm no one to add to it. So, that being said, I just wanted to give that quick little tidbit. I am planning on purchasing pre-orders for Hobonichi and for Take a Note. For a little bit, I was considering getting a Sterling Ink planner, but I have decided against that. I will be getting eventually Sterling Ink notebooks to supplement some of my journals if I run out of note pages. I think that one of the most amazing things about Sterling Ink is that they offer notebooks in almost every single planner size, and so having that as a supplement for me works really well. So I will be getting that later, but I'm not going to be pre-ordering from them, I don't believe. I'm only going to be pre-ordering from Hobonichi. And already on the screen, you can see what my wish list looks like. So I went back and forth, back and forth. Originally, I was going to get a weeks for media journaling. And another thing that I kind of wanted to say is that I really recommend writing down kind of like the pros and cons, what you've learned in the year in terms of your own journaling habits when it comes to deciding what you want to do for next year. Something that I mentioned in that Patreon video, and you know what? I'll put a clip of it right here because who better to say it than myself? So I think that one of the things that's really difficult about ordering or pre-ordering and deciding things like this so early on is that there's still 4 months worth of time that I need to spend in my current system and thinking about what I want to do for next year and how to perfect my system makes the current one feel inadequate. And that is really hard to kind of grapple with. How do I continue to enjoy the space that I've created for myself in my journals currently while like acknowledging or realizing that I want to change it up for next year, right? And I don't know if that's just a me problem, but it's definitely something that comes up when I think about things like I need to pre-order and what do I want next year to look like and what am I going to do with my systems, and oh, this is going to work better than this and vice versa. And it's like, oh, I already want to be in these new journals, right? But I'm not going to buy these journals for this year because I already have my own system for this year. So just something that I don't think I've heard a lot of people talk about, if any at all. Everyone's just talking about like not jumping the gun because you don't know, which is also a huge factor, right? Like so much can change in 4 months. Like what I think is perfect now might not be perfect once I actually receive the notebooks. So I think that's the really kind of scary thing when it comes to pre-ordering, right? Like what if I pre-order the wrong thing and I'm out all this money, you know? So let's talk about 2025, yeah. So now that being said, I think that writing it down is really, really helpful in kind of cementing what works for you and what doesn't work for you. When I first started thinking about my 2025 lineup, I started thinking with the notebooks in mind. And then after, I was like, you know what? Let me think about what I've learned this year and think about my needs first, and then figure out what notebooks can kind of like supplement that need. And that completely shifted a bit of what I wanted to get. And that is specifically true about the weeks. So originally I was going to get a weeks for media journaling. I was going to go back into the weeks for 2025 into media journaling. But I found, thanks Mark, that the Take a Note is releasing a TN sized bi-weekly slim notebook, and that's why I could just show you this notebook here, where it's 2 weeks on a spread. So if you scroll down here, you can see 2 weeks on a spread. And for me, that's something that I've been really wanting to experiment with media journaling. And so I decided, even though I really love the weeks, I'll probably start doing that. I was talking to Maddie over at Hello Naya, and she says, well, knowing you, you'll probably want to get into a weeks anyways, because I really have no use for either of these 2 weeks. Originally, I was going to get 3 weeks. The pistachio stole my heart, but I really can't I really can't fathom getting a third weeks when I don't even know what I'm gonna necessarily do with at least one of these weeks. Something that is also something that I'm really passionate about when it comes to not feeling guilty about planner purchases is that it's all just part of your year. Um, if you have the disposable income for it, or let's say everyone makes this subject of planner consumption just like breaks my mind, because everyone has something that they enjoy spending money on, right? And of course, the economics situation of a lot of people is dire. But I really doubt, I really, really doubt that you are choosing to buy a planner over buying yourself a plate of food. Right? Like I really, really doubt that. And even if you are, that's not my problem, right? So if you're buying something, it's because you think that you're gonna get some use out of it and that you're gonna enjoy it. And guess what? If you don't, that's information. Like I am very into experimenting with journals. Maddie, she says, knowing you, you're gonna experiment and you're gonna jump into another journal. I am the type of person that does journal hop quite a bit. I do always end up using my journals anyways. Something that you can think about too is, oh, maybe um if you don't end up using it as a journal, then use it as something else, like repurpose it for something else. Something that I did with my hobonichi cousin this year, the second half of it, the second half of it is that I've been repurposing it as an art journal, and I've been doing art spreads in it. Flip through to come soon, and just using it that way. And so I have some weeks that I haven't really used this year. For example, the megas. I bought 2 megas this year and I didn't really like using them long term. I noticed about myself this year specifically that I don't like thick books because I didn't end up finishing my paper test V6 either. So, I wouldn't have known that if I wouldn't have purchased them. I can save myself future heartache by knowing, "Oh, okay, I don't like thick books. Maybe I should get something else." And at the end of the day, that's part of the memory keeping process. That's part of the experimental process. You learn things about yourself along the way. And I know the whole topic of like, okay, well, how am I going to fit this on a shelf? Well, there are options, right? Like, for example, for me, I don't really care about that too much. I talked about this in the Patreon video too, because in my brain, I'm going to put all of my journals into a container and I'm going to archive a container per year with my journals because I know for myself that I have multiple journals in a year. So just take into account, basically a roundabout way of saying is take some notes. There are some really good videos right now going around. I've seen Lindsay Scribble's mind maps. Then my Dandelion Diaries also did a mind map. I think Little Coco Studio, I think that's her name. Yep, that's her name, Little Coco Studio. She also has a really good one with this whole process on how to pick a journal. So I just wanted to say that, and just some final words. some last minute advice before pre-orders begin, and just kind of show you what my idea is in terms of what I'm going to pre-order. This is subject to change once pre-order happens. I'm going to have a separate video with the pre-orders that I make and kind of going through that, but I just wanted to cement for myself what it is that I plan on getting and how I plan to use them, and kind of share that with you also. So I have my Notion on another screen, and I'm going to kind of go through what I'm going to use these for. So first notebook that I wanted to talk about was the Take a Note 2025 Medium Weeks. And this is a B6, and I plan on using this as my big book of everything, my archive book. Again, if you're a Lindsay Scribbles fan, you've kind of heard this concept of having one book that houses all of your memory keeping for the year. I'm not going to be using this on a daily basis. My daily notebook is one thing, my daily journal is one thing. This is more of an archive that I can go into and use kind of my other daily notebooks to then fill in and have it be like a archive, right? Like an all around look at what I'm going to be using it for. I'm planning on using the monthlies as an index. So since I'm gonna have multiple notebooks, I know that about myself. I like having multiple notebooks in the year. I like the creativity of it. I'm gonna be using the monthlies as an index. So for example, I can write down on the second, um, oh, I wrote about that on page 5 in my daily log, page 10 in my media log, etc., and kind of have a visual of all of the notebooks and where the specific dates are being registered in. The weeklies, which are a very interesting setup for the take a note. The vertical weeklies I know about myself also from looking at 2023 notebooks and looking at 2024 notebooks, that I really enjoy memory keeping in a vertical layout. And so I wanted that as well. I considered getting a TN insert for it, but since I want an archive, I figured that it would be better to have it in one book instead of having multiple inserts. So I'm going to be using this to put my pictures of the week and kind of highlights of what happened. And the highlights are going to be kept in the Take a Note 2025 A5. So the A5 is going to be my functional notebook. Another thing that I learned about myself this year is that I don't like to set up multiple spreads, multiple notebooks every single week. One of the reasons why I didn't keep up with my media my health tracker was because it was just another notebook that I needed to set up every week, but there are things that I like tracking. So I'm going to be using my functional planner also as a kind of like data oriented memory keeper because I really enjoy data as well. So having all of my trackers in a notebook that I'm going to be looking at every single day because it's going to be my functional system, I think is probably going to be the best way to make sure that I keep on track of all of those trackers. So I'm going to be using this Calendex as the place where I track. There's only two dots, so two spaces. So I'm going to be tracking my migraines and I'm going to be tracking my period on here. The Calendex, I haven't 100% decided what I'm going to use for, but it'll be probably social media related. I usually do use these for tracking and that sort of thing. Monthly plan is going to be for social media tracking and for important dates and things like that. And then the weeklies, which are the bread and butter of this, I'm going to be using the horizontal area for any appointments or any content that I need to put out that week. And then I'm going to be using the weeklies as a morph of weekly planning and daily planning, and then also have a space for trackers and so on and so forth. Another thing that I considered on here was to use it for I have this thing where I collect the wins for the day, the pebble for the day, and the gratitude for the day. I had considered using this for this, but since I have two hobonichi weeks that I'm planning on getting that don't really have a purpose, I'm thinking I'm going to move that to one of those other journals and kind of name it like an introspection journal. Um, so that's that. And then the final take a note that I'm considering for the year is this slim bi-week planner. This is going to be where I put my media log. So currently and right now mean the same thing. Excuse the redundancy. Right now, I'm keeping my media journal in an N1 Sterling Ink Common Planner. Last year, I kept my media journal in a Hobonichi Weeks, and I realized that I really enjoy, after kind of like delving in my daily log and what have you, I really enjoy having my daily log and my media related reactions and kind of like my commonplacing, my quotes, songs that have been stuck in my head. I enjoy having that all together. I like seeing the media in context with what's happening in my day, in my weeks. And so I also like keeping a log. That's something that I was struggling with a bit in my paper test V6, where I didn't really have a space where the log fit. So what I decided was to kind of split it and have the log be in this bi-weekly, and then I'm gonna have either the Sterling Ink N1 notebook, the 272 page, which is right here. I'm either gonna do that or I'm gonna do the TN inserts like I've been doing um, this year. I think I'm gonna go for the inserts because I really enjoy the process of decorating and changing notebooks. Just having a notebook for a specific amount of time and then being able to switch throughout the year really keeps things alive and creative. So I think I'm leaning towards the notebooks, and I really wanna try out the Baumkuchen grid notebook because that one's Tomoe River Paper Cream grid. I've really been enjoying the Tomoe River Paper Sterling Ink notebook, but it's white, and I kinda wanna try the grid. That one does have a few more pages though, which is why I'm a little iffy about it, but that's kind of like what I'm thinking about. And then we come to the weeks and the hobonichi stuff. So these are the 2 weeks that I have been thinking about nonstop, along with the pistachio, but we already talked about how I'm gonna be saying goodbye to the pistachio. This one absolutely stole my heart because it is watercolored and it is look at that cat. Oh, it's so cute. Look at the cat. I love it so much. And it has the pencil board, which I am so obsessed with. I really need this. Like, I really need this. Even if I don't end up using it, something that I've realized about myself is that I really love the weeks designs. So I am low key becoming a collector of weeks, not necessarily a user of weeks. I would like to use them, but at the same time, I just really love having the design. Something that Jess over from Plan by Jila, we were talking about on the Patreon is like, is the pain of not having it worse than the pain of having it and not using it? And so that's maybe something that you can ask yourself as well when you're thinking about whether you should buy something. Like, is the pain of not having it worse or easier than the pain of not using it? Something to consider when you're going to buy something. And then also this week's is just absolutely gorgeous. I love this kind of like teal green situation here. What color would you call this? I love it. And then something that I did talk about in that Patreon video as well, that for me, the weeks need to be a fabric, like a fabric material. I don't like hardcover weeks and I don't like the bow and tie fabric. It gives me some like sensory issues, so I'm not using that. Another thing that I'm getting from Hobonichi, I'm planning on getting, I've never owned a Hobonichi cover, but this cover absolutely stole my heart. Even though the yellow is super bright, a little too bright, the art inside of it and the art outside of it just absolutely stole me, struck me, bewitched my heart and soul. And so I am going to be getting that. At least that's the plan. And I'm going to be using that with my take a note. So I'm not gonna be getting the Hobonichi cousin. I am also not really that worried about it. The Hobonichi cousin is something that you can get throughout the year, so I'm really only focusing on things that might sell out, and getting that on this pre-order. Of course, with the weeks, you're getting the additional items. I don't think that I'll get any of the notebooks because I'm not getting a cousin, although I'm gonna be ordering with a friend, so maybe that'll happen. And then I don't know how I feel about the pens. I don't know about how I feel. I don't know how I feel about the yellow pens. But yeah, that's the plan. That's what I'm thinking of getting for 2025. That's the gist of the plan. I am also thinking about the possibility of using one of the 2025 weeks if I don't find another use for them and converting them, redating them, and using them for my 2022 media journal that I still have to convert from a digital space into a physical space. I kind of want to do that. So worst comes to shove, push comes to shove. What's the saying? I'll be able to use it that way, and of course, I can always find another way to repurpose it. So those are my um very end of minute, end of the line, however the saying goes, thoughts and suggestions. And I hope that some of it was helpful to you, inspirational. I hope that you enjoyed seeing which ones I'm planning on getting. And I think that it'll be really fun to see which ones I'm planning on getting and then comparing it to the video of which ones I actually do end up buying. So, with that being said, thank you so much for watching. And I wish you a good pre order if you are going to be pre ordering. And if it's not something that is really in your plans right now, that is totally fine. You are no less of a planner person if you don't pre-order. And a lot of these things will restock anyways. So unless you specifically want some of the pre-order like perks, then sure, but otherwise it's totally fine. And don't let anyone tell you that you are buying too much or buying too little or any of that, because it's your choice. It's your money. You do what you want with it. Anyways, catch you in the next video. Bye.